No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey gardeners, I hope you're all having an awesome week in the garden. This last week for us, we got our first really good hard frost. So most of our warmer weather plants have all died off. So we're out here pulling them and the weeds and all of that. And it's just in time too, because our tree is dropping all of its fall leaves. So we can collect all of these and then chop them up and use them for mulch to cover all of our garden beds and get them all tucked in for winter. So let's get growing. All right. Welcome, gardeners, to Let's Get Growing, your weekly gardening livecast right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today, and we've got a really, really exciting episode for you today. We've got with us returning Greg Peterson. Greg Peterson. He's going to be joining with us here in just a little bit. And we're going to talk all about our gardening and growing seasons. So stay tuned for Greg coming up here in just a few minutes. And again, welcome to all of you for joining with us here. And if you are joining with us live, definitely click that like button, hit the thumbs up, give us a big thumbs up for the Let's Get Growing show, and for Greg Peterson joining with us again today. And also, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, and follow along with all of our garden adventures here on the Let's Get Growing channel, and also share our show. And you can also check us out at letsgetgrowing.live. And also, again, too, if you are joining with us here today, we want to hear I want to hear from all of you and all of your questions or comments or anything like that. So please jump into our comments section there. And if you have any questions for Greg when he comes on here in a little bit too, definitely jump in and ask some questions. We'd love to answer any of your gardening questions. And then also too, one of the best ways to support our show is also to support our sponsor. Sponsor is IV Organics. You can check them out at ivorganics.com. Use our promo code GROW10, GROW10 at their shop, and save 10% on all of the things that they have to offer there for you there. So awesome. Again, too, really great to see all of you here. And it's been just a really kind of cold week out in the garden. As you saw there at the beginning clip, we did have our first real hard frost. I talked a bit last week about how we had like a little bit of a frost. It was kind of a light frost. And plants got affected just a little bit, but this last few days, man, the overnights just really dropped, and a lot of our warmer weather plants, man, they just really were like, boom, done. It's one thing, I love seeing the vibrant green and all of the things that these plants offer, and especially as we start moving into fall and we're really harvesting and we're really getting that production from all of our plants, and they're just really, really thriving. But man, it's just something else to walk out into your garden after that first frost and just see all of your plants just done for. And I did protect a few different things. We covered up a few things that I did want to kind of save and hold on to just a little bit, but it still kind of got kind of pretty cold. So even at that point, some of those things too as well weren't doing too well in the last couple of days. And but again, we've got some of those more cooler weather plants that are actually just really loving it right now too. They're loving that cold weather. We've got some greens out there. The spinach is just, the spinach gets so sweet and crisp and everything, right, when it starts to get cool like this too. So there are some really cool things growing on in the garden, but all those nice summer things are pretty much done. You know, all of our cucumber plants, the beans, I have this really cool trellis out in the alleyway. If you've seen that trellis that I have watching our channel, just really cool big old bean wall. I've been harvesting tons and tons of beans off of this thing. And and yeah, it's just, you know, when you see that whole wall just kind of go but and yeah, and so it really does actually kind of get me moving when I see all of that sort of stuff. So I'm out there this last few days just really pulling out all of these plants, pulling all the weeds and all of that sort of thing. And again, as I showed at the beginning there in that clip, you know, we got all of our fall leaves that are falling. In fact, the day before I filmed that clip, I actually went through with the lawnmower all through the yards here because there's actually two trees there, two maple trees. One of them is a different variety on the other side, on my neighbor's side. And it drops all of its leaves like weeks before the one on my side, the one that you saw in the clip. And so I was out there cleaning and mulching, you know, just basically rolling over them with the lawnmower in order to mulch them up and then save all those leaves. I've got all of those that we're topping off on all the beds, and then the leaves that have fallen on mine. We'll be doing the same thing here in another, like, it's probably going to take about another week or so for the tree to completely finish dropping all of its plants and all of it, or its leaves. And then we'll mulch all of those up, and we'll use those in any other remaining spots that we have to cover up for our garden, because I got a lot of garden space. Now there's some things I use again for growing all of our cooler weather stuff, you know, a lot of our greens and the spinach, as I talked about. I've got some of those things. And as we start moving towards um, more into winter, I will have like covers and things like that that will help kind of keep those protected the best I can through some of our harder frosts and freezes that we'll have later in the winter. But a lot of my other beds just kind of get put aside for the winter time in order to wait for next year. And so what I'm doing then with all, like I said, with all of those leaves is we really want to cover up all of that soil and cover up all of those different beds. As I showed in the clip too, we have those big 45-gallon fabric grow pots, you know. So all of those things, you know, just put a nice good few inches of that leaf mulch, you know, chopped up leaves. You know, if you got regular leaves, that's fine and all of that. Plant, the leaves will break down during the winter time and throughout this next spring, and then you know, but it's good to protect your soil, you know, when it comes to that sort of stuff. You know, that's the key to everything that we're growing in our gardens is our soil, and so we want to make sure that we're protecting our soil as best we can, and that's just one of the best things that we can do for that, for sure. All right, real quick, let's welcome everybody here to the show that we've got in so far. Jumping into the comments section, Jay, of course. Thank you, Jay, so much again for showing up. We've got such a great moderator, and Jay is just really great in helping us, you know, keep links and different things going as far as things that we're discussing. You know, even subjects, you know, if we're talking about subjects, Jay's so good about putting some great links for everybody to check out the things that we're talking about. So welcome, Jay. Welcome, Connie. And Rob from Rob's Allotment over in England. Great to see you joining with us again this week. And obviously, we've got our friend Joe from Grow Big TV. And everybody, Joe is from our Joe's our friend from I'm so sorry. I'm really messing this up right now. But anyways, he's got a new channel, Grow Big TV, and he's got a co-host and everything. They're doing a new show. So I encourage everybody to go check out Grow Big TV and go check him out as well, too. Thanks for joining with us here on the show this week. And I don't know, was there a question here? Question. I have a 5-year-old fig tree that is planted in the ground. It freezes all the way back in the winter and burns up in the summer. Okay, let's see here. Oh, and I want to dig it up and put it in a pot so I can protect it. When is the best time to move it? Yeah, well, depending on what you're able to do in order to protect it, fig trees are going to be, they're going to want to kind of, in a sense, in a cooler climate, they're going to try to, just kind of die back anyways, and then they'll grow back. But if you're really going to put it, say, in a place that's warmer, a garage with some lights indoors or something like that, you're definitely wanting to pull it in before some of those lighter frosts and that sort of thing. And basically those leaves start drooping. I have a Chicago fig out there that after that first kind of light frost, I got some of the leaves that kind of drooped and browned a little bit, but then some of the ones that were kind of underneath in the newer leaves still seemed to be like they were okay. So it was handling up to about that much. But as soon as I had that hard frost, just the other day, it was pretty much done for. And it's growing in a pot too. And I just pretty much keep it out there. And it'll basically just go dormant pretty much. It's going to drop all of its leaves, just like my peach tree, just like my apple trees, all of that sort of stuff. And then again, we'll look forward to in this next spring, and it'll start budding out and start growing some new growth. And so yeah, definitely. If you're going to be moving it and trying to get it protected in that sort of sense, and you want to try to grow it and keep it growing and green throughout the wintertime, I would suggest that that you bring it in before a frost, definitely. So, all right, excellent. Here, let's run through here and see if we got any. Yes, there you are, Joe. Sorry. New Jersey. Yes, Joe's from New Jersey. That's what I was meant to say there. Sorry. All right. Excellent. Yes, yes. Oh, and Greg's already jumping in also right there. Greg's jumping in and saying, "Hey, I'll move the fig when it's dormant." Yes. There you go. All right. All right. Excellent. So, definitely, I am, besides all of the, mulching and protecting the soil and doing all that sort of stuff that we're working on right now, I've been actually working on also saving seeds. This is a great time. What I've, where we've just harvested up a lot of the last things that we've got, and so what I've been doing, is collecting up all of those my favorite things that I'm growing. There's things I grow each and every year, and a lot of those things that I grow each and every year, I'm saving seeds from, and I'm making sure that I'm keeping those seeds. So that's been one of the bigger projects we've actually been working on this last week or so. And also, I just also want to let you know too, is I do have a seed saving video for our tomato seeds that we've collected. We have a couple of different varieties. One in particular, I really like to save every single year. And we'll actually also, if you watch that video, so definitely be sure to check in this Tuesday when I release that seed saving video, because there'll be some information in that video so that you can actually get in hold of me and in contact with me in order to get some of those seeds yourself. And that's one of the things too. Not only do you want to save seeds, but you also want to share your seeds as well too. And that's one of the things I'm looking to do with some of my tomato seed varieties that I've got. So be sure to check in on that video that we've got coming up, and then you'll get some information on being able to get a hold of some of my seeds that we've got there too. So that's going to be really fun to actually, and again, I haven't actually put out a really good video for the channel in just a little while. We've been kind of busy with doing a bunch of things in the show and all that sort of stuff. So I'm kind of excited about getting back in the swing of things. I've got several different videos to be looking forward to, and we're going to try to get those out on Tuesdays. So this Tuesday will be a seed saving video, and then we've got our garlic. I got a garlic video. We're going to talk about garlic and all of that, because we just got that all planted out and everything. So that'll be coming up the next week. And then also one of my big new projects right now is verma composting. I finally got myself set up with a worm bin and all of that, and got some worms and everything. So I've got a good video on that coming up as well too. So definitely be looking forward to some of that video content that we have coming up here on our channel. So one other things too. I want to also give a big shout out to one of our longest running viewers, Nancy, who is just so supportive of our channel. I wanted to kind of give a big shout out to Nancy's daughter, Sarah. Sarah has opened up her own seed shop. It's at www.sarahseedshop.com, and she's got a nice little variety of seeds, and they're very inexpensive. She's 75 cents a piece, and you're going to get a bunch of really good seeds, more than you're going to get in a regular packet of seeds that you're going to see at your stores and your garden centers and all of that. So definitely go and check out Sarah's Seed Shop and go order some seeds and help support a nice young entrepreneur and a nice small business, and get some seeds. And again, too, another thing you can do as well is order some seeds to gift out some friends as well, too. Maybe you don't have all those seeds saved from your garden, so you want to give some gifts of seeds to friends and all of that. Go check out Sarah's Seed Shop. I also do have a link down below in the description there, so you all can go check that out too there. All right. So here in just a moment, we're going to take just a real quick break here. And right after that, we'll be joined with our guest, Greg Peterson. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
IV Organic brand products are innovative, organic, effective, and USA made products to help make this your best growing season. Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic brand products has a product for you, whether you be an organic orchard or a backyard grower that's trying to do things right. IV Organics has a product for you. IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers are unlike most fertilizers on the market in the sense that it has all 6 plant macronutrients. These are nutrients that plants need in abundance. Most people are just focused, and most people have only been trained to focus on the NPK, but IV Organic brand fertilizers deliver all 6 plant macronutrients, which include your nitrogen for your greening and growth, phosphorus for flowers and fruit, and also in the summertime helps with the drought resistance of the plant. Potassium, important for root development, disease resistance, and then the other 3 macronutrients that IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers have include magnesium, which is the heart of the chlorophyll molecule, sulfur, important for the greening and the metabolic processes within the plant, and number 6, and actually about 1/3 of the plant's weight, is calcium.
All right. Let's welcome back to the Let's Get Growing show, Greg Peterson. The
Hey,
Urban
buddy.
Farm. Hey, good to see you again.
Thanks for having me back. I love this.
Excellent. Yeah, great to have you back. We had such a great conversation, such a fun guest and discussion in our first time around. So I thought, here it is, the end of the season. Let's get Greg back on. Let's talk about how our gardening seasons went this year.
Oh my gosh. Well, I've started counting my life and how many gardening seasons I might have left. And
right.
I did something exciting a year and a half ago. We moved from the place where I'd had all my gardening seasons, Phoenix, Arizona, to Asheville, North Carolina. So I have now had 2 gardening seasons in Asheville, North Carolina, and it is way different here. You're talking gardening seasons. We pretty much have 2 gardening seasons in Phoenix, Arizona. We have the growing season, which is September to June, and it's too hot to grow anything here, forget about it, which is usually July and August. And, I went from that to, we had our first frost day here in Asheville about October 20th. It got down to 20 degrees.
Ooh, yeah, that's really cold.
Right?
Yeah. And something I know you're definitely not familiar with, right? Being from Phoenix.
Right. Well,
have you changed your wardrobe? Is your closet a lot different, right?
Yes. Yes, thanks to my partner Heidi. She's Greg, you got to put more clothes on.
Yeah, no more shorts in the fall, right? In the
Right.
wintertime.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right on, right on. So what I attended one of your chats this last month, and
Yeah.
one of the things you talked about too, and this is something that I do some in containers and all of that, but whenever people are asking me like what are the first things I should be growing, I'm starting a garden, or I got this new space, I got this new land, what are some of the first things I should be doing? I always tell people trees. Start planting trees. It's one of the first things you should be thinking about in your spaces. You know what I mean? They're those long-term things. They're
Yeah.
going to be there for years and years and years. And some trees take a few years in order to start producing. So you want to kind of get in on that as soon as possible. And during your chat, I heard you mention that you planted like what, 150 plus trees or something?
Yeah. So I'm going to actually step back a little bit. I'm a permaculture teacher and designer.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And I do my own permaculture designs. I don't do designs for other people. Never been interested in that. And one of the things that I've told people for decades is spend at least a year on a property before you
Okay,
make
there you
any
go.
major changes. So the interesting thing for me about that was that I spent 32 years at my last property.
32.
And so I was at the urban farm in Phoenix for 32 years. And there wasn't much that I needed to understand about that space. Although I was always paying attention and looking for different nuances, it wasn't like picking up and moving from Phoenix, Arizona to Asheville, North Carolina. And, it's like I was gobsmacked about how much different it is here.
Yeah.
We complain in Phoenix, we complain about pests.
Mm-hmm.
And now I laugh about those complaints because pest pressure in Phoenix, Arizona is like this. And, I can't even go big enough about the pest pressure here just because
Yeah.
it's so moist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we got funguses and molds and bugs and oh my gosh.
You got but you've also got the pests that I don't deal too much with though too, is you probably got a lot of wild animal pest pressure, right?
Yeah, we do. In fact, so we did over the summer, we planted 160 fruit trees and berry plants. I planted 100 elderberries. I'm apparently going into elderberry farming.
Okay.
Yeah. And one weekend, so I have two orchards. One's off this direction and one's off this direction. The one off to my left is pretty protected from any animals, so it didn't get any damage. The one off to my right, it's right out in the middle of the open, and apparently deer walk right through it. And so we planted six peach and apple trees in the space on Saturday. And I've been walking my orchard 2 or 3 times a week. So on Tuesday, I walked down there, and all 6 trees, which were about 4 feet tall and pretty bushed out, were stripped.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. If there's anything that you hear about the most when it comes to animal pests, when it comes to your garden, it's got to be the deer. I mean, the deer are just so,
where I'm at, that absolutely is the case. So I get on the phone with my buddy Scott Murray. He's a farmer, organic farmer in San Diego, and I said, Scott, what do I do? And he actually gave me a solution.
Yeah.
A solution. It's a liquid.
It's a liquid solution.
A liquid solution. He suggested that I add 1 ounce of ground cayenne pepper.
Okay.
And 1 ounce of liquid garlic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In a pump sprayer. So I bought one of those backpack pump sprayers that's battery powered. So it's 4 gallons. So I filled it up about halfway full. The next weekend, so this was on Tuesday, on Saturday, we planted another 60 fruit trees or so.
Yeah.
And I immediately went out there and sprayed them. Oh, the other thing he said is put a little bit of soap in there so that it
binds
attaches.
it and yeah.
Exactly. But I didn't do that.
Oh.
What I did was I added a couple of ounces of fish emulsion,
Okay.
fish and kelp emulsion. So that's kind of oily and sticky.
Yeah.
And so of the, I don't know, 50 or so trees that we planted that final weekend, I sprayed everything except the mulberries because I just, for whatever reason, I didn't think they would be interested in the mulberries. I come out the next day and guess what? The mulberries are stripped. Everything else was
Oh my
left
gosh.
alone.
Oh
So
my.
that was an unknown experiment that I did there just to, I don't know why I didn't spray them, the mulberries, but it proved the point.
Yeah. Well, and they came through.
Yep.
You know that they avoided those and they
Yep.
went to whatever else was left over.
Right.
They weren't going to go away without something.
So I've been especially after every time it rains, I spray everything down, and I will be doing, as soon as everything buds out in the spring, I'll be doing weekly foliars on them. That and and the cayenne pepper and garlic and fish emulsion, and the garlic that I used is a product that's on the market called mosquito barrier.
Mosquito barrier.
Yeah, that's what it's called, and
Yeah.
it's supposed to keep away mosquitoes. Now, I didn't use it for that, but I was using it for ticks and fleas in our yard, and it was working real well with that. Not sure where that came from, but I'll take it.
It seems like you put the thumbs up. Oh yeah, you got something on your
Maybe if we
screen.
do this, I wonder if it'll do this. Yeah, there we go.
Love it. You don't know how you got that set up, huh?
I don't know how I got that set up, but it happens.
I love it,
So
that's great.
That must be a computer thing, not a Zoom thing, because that happens to me on Zoom as well. So
yeah, it's got to be something maybe to do with your background software or something like that. Maybe, I don't know.
Who knows?
Hey, it's pretty cool though. Right on. So when it comes to that, that's really the only sort of protection you're using though, is this deer solution that you got from your friend. No, like wires or cages or fencing or anything like that.
Nothing.
All right.
I hope I don't have to put in fences. I will if I need to, but I hope I don't have to.
Yeah.
So you mentioned our gardens and the success of our gardens. And so we moved here, and we moved here in April. The weekend that we arrived was April 21st and 22nd of 2022. So we've been here a year and a half, and we had a U-Haul trailer that I pulled behind my truck. And I took the U-Haul trailer back to the U-Haul place, and wouldn't you know it, now we arrived on Friday and I delivered it on Saturday there. So wouldn't you know it, there's a garden store, a nursery right across from the U-Haul dealership. And what did we do? We went across the street and bought some garden soil and some tomato plants. And by Monday or Tuesday, we had our first garden in the ground.
Oh,
and it was an absolute massive failure.
Oh, yeah.
It just pretty, I had these beautiful tomatoes. They grew up to be about 3 feet tall, and then some kind of fungus or something showed up, and it started eating them from the ground up, and they were gone before long. And mostly I don't know that we harvested anything in 2022 out of our gardens. And I was lamenting that to my buddy. In fact, you need to get Zach from Arizona Worm Farm on your show. He's great. And I was talking with Zach, and he said, Greg, don't forget, your first garden is your worst garden. And it's like, first of all, okay. And how would I even remember that? Because my first garden happened in 1974 in Phoenix.
You're just so far removed, right?
Right. So I would call our first garden year here on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 1.
Yeah.
Just because we had a few things show up. Now, 2023 happens. I'm adjusting, and our garden is now on a scale of 1 to 10. We get it to a 4.
Oh, moving up though.
Moving up there. And the other thing that I did as soon as we got here is I bought a worm bin.
Oh, yes.
And I bought a worm bin from Urban Worm Company. If you haven't checked them out, man, they are rock stars. I love them. They have a funnel-shaped worm bin that is a flow-through worm bin.
That's what I was going to say, flow through, yeah.
Exactly. So it's shaped like a funnel, and there's a little opening about 10 inches diameter at the bottom that once a year you open it up. So, and it's pretty big, and it took my worm castings about a year to go through there. And I probably let them go too long, but I was just processing them. And then before I planted all those trees starting in June, I went and knocked out the worm bin. All this worm castings fell out, right? And each tree that we planted, every 100 of the 160 fruit trees and bushes that we planted, I took a handful of that worm castings and I threw it in the hole. Now you're familiar with that process, right?
Yeah, definitely. Something I do. I mean, I've been buying my worm castings and all that, but it's definitely something I like to do and recommend doing is anything, even my seed starting soil, my indoor plants, everything gets worm castings.
Why?
Because worm castings are gold.
Yeah.
They've got
soil.
everything you need. I mean, they're just probably one of the best natural fertilizers that you're going to get for your garden. And if that's all you got, it's even, you're set.
Exactly. Right. So apparently we eat a lot of tomatoes, and a lot of tomato seeds went into the worm bin.
Oh, okay.
Now the worms don't eat the tomato seeds. They just eat the stuff around them, and then the tomato seeds come out of the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And apparently we eat a lot of hybrid tomatoes from the grocery store, because when we planted out our 160 fruit trees it was June, July, and August of this year.
Yeah.
We had over 50 tomato plants come up in the rows of trees.
Oh my. Right on.
In September and early October, we were harvesting 5 to 8 pounds of tomatoes every other day. And I just put a table down at the end of our driveway for our neighborhood, and it said, organic tomatoes from Greg and Heidi's farm. Take them, they're free.
Yeah.
Made a lot of friends that way, by the way. And one of the things that we discovered, so remember, one of the first things I said when we started this thing is spend at least a year on your property observing.
Yeah.
The things that we're observing for are, where's the water coming from? Where's it going? Where the heat sinks? Where the cool spaces on your yard? How do things grow when you just let them grow? And wouldn't you know that the tomatoes in our fruit tree rows, I would actually give them a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Wow.
They got the fertilizer that went in the hole with the trees.
Yep.
They lived on rainwater.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Wow.
And they thrived. So, take note, Greg.
Yeah.
Next year. So what we did when we planted the trees was I used a sod cutter. You know what a sod cutter is?
Yeah. It just kind of strips the lawn.
Yeah. It's a machine that cuts an 18-inch wide strip out of your lawn. So this is my front yard, by the way, in the picture behind me. The backyard's a little bit more hilly. And so what I did, and this is from my permaculture training, is on contour, so at the same elevation across and we cut about 600 linear feet of ditches on contour. Yeah. And that's where we planted all the trees. So when the rain comes down and it's flowing down the mountain, the ditch stops it.
Okay, yeah.
The ditch fills up with water. So we use a sod cutter and cut we call them swales in permaculture. And I took all that soil and I put it downhill. So we got our downhill going down, and then we got a little ditch and a hump, and then the downhill keeps going down.
Okay, yeah.
All right. And then in those, we went after the fact and dug our tree holes. I ended up cutting a 60-foot swale in the mountain and just filled it with woody mulch, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the worm castings from my worm bin next year and I'm going to fill up that swale that's down there, the 60 feet, and see what comes up, and just let it
go.
Just let it go, man. Let nature be, because
Yeah.
when we pay attention to nature, it's magical.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I do, and I did talk about at the beginning, is like right now we're working on saving some seeds and all of that too. But one of the things I also
Cheers to
do in
that.
my garden, yeah, definitely. It's if you got things you really like and they're good heirlooms and all of that, you definitely want to save those seeds and plant them again the next year, and keep those sort of things going. So I've got a few of my favorites, but one of the things I also do though too, especially with one of my cherry tomato varieties I have, is I let some of those good big juicy ones, as tempting as they are to pull off of the plant, I let them just go until they fall, and I let them soak themselves right into the soil, and I don't even mess with it. You know what I mean? And then each and every single year I get these just awesome volunteers, and similar, like what you were saying, with just, there's nothing better than just having things grow on its own, just kind of pop up and be there, right?
Well, I found that
No effort.
I found that the ones that volunteer, they do the best.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at that. We had 50 tomato plants. Remember I said we ate a lot of hybrid tomatoes?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you plant you can actually save and plant hybrid seeds.
Yeah.
You can absolutely do that. No problem. It's just what happens is the genetics starts going back to the previous tomatoes that have been grown in this case. And we probably had a dozen different kinds of tomatoes growing out there in the swales that, I'd never grown them.
Yeah.
And they just magically showed up and they were incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that is the thing, if you are saving the hybrid seeds, that's, it's the expectations of what you're actually going to get. But again, like you said, some of those surprises are really awesome, and really great,
my buddy Bill McDormand, he's a seed saver. He says, the worst thing that can happen is you get something you can eat.
That's right. That's right. Huh, exactly. For sure. I love it. That's a great one. So let's go back. You were talking about, so like the first year garden, and this is something I also talk about with people when they're asking about, if they're new to gardening or they're starting their first garden, and, we kind of mentioned that a second ago, is expectations, is that's the sort of thing we're going into it. We want all this stuff, especially someone who's new to gardening. They're just like, oh, all this stuff I want to grow. And they, but I always say that, that first year is going to be your worst year. It's just going to be that way no matter what, because even if you have some good successes and things, you're going to be learning and you're going to build on that, and you're going to do that year after year after year. So always, it's just a natural part of the process that first one's your worst year. And a lot of it comes down to, is what, and I'd ask you this too, as well, as far as what you might have observed in your own garden, but soil, things like that we've got to build up. There's that first year, maybe our soil doesn't have the life that we're going to build into it over the next few years, so we're putting plants in there that, are not getting, like those soil microorganisms and the fungi and the things like that are just going to really make those roots thrive and all of that. So until we start building that soil over those next couple of years in order to make sure those things are present, then that's what we're going to kind of see, is that gradual buildup of our garden. So you said your next garden is a 4 now instead of a 1. You'd probably be up to a 6 to an 8 maybe next year, and then maybe 4 years from now you're looking at that 10, like boom, we've got this whole thing, this whole system's rolling. So that's pretty much something what you're observing, and or any sort of other things that you might have observed between that first year and now your second year.
Well, and so the big thing is, what soil are you growing in?
Yep.
You get what you pay for with soil. I have been buying $400 cubic yard totes of soil. I've been buying the good stuff. The guy tests it for chemicals, and some people are like, whoa, but
Yeah.
you really get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And
That's
what I
right.
found is the second year using the good stuff from Dirtcraft Organics here in Asheville, we're having a lot more successes. And one of the things that I did, I'm a big fan of gardening on the cheap. How
Mhm.
can how can we get our garden set up and not spend a lot of money? You don't want to
Yeah.
have a $400 tomato.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I did, and this is over on my YouTube channel, one of the things that I did is I built a 4-foot by 8-foot garden, raised bed garden, and for $30.
$30.
30
Sounds
bucks. That
Yep.
didn't include the soil.
All right.
That was just the container. So what I did is I bought 3 2-inch by 8-inch by 8-foot long pieces of wood,
Mhm.
untreated,
Yep.
and I cut one of them in half. So now I have 2 8-foot pieces and 2 4-foot pieces, and I just bought clamps and I clamped them together in the corners and screwed in the ends, and voila, we had a garden
That's
bed.
it. Just that
Now,
easy.
one of the things that I've done in Arizona that worked fairly well, but it didn't work well at all here, is I put, of that 8 inches, I put 2 or 3 inches in the bottom of woody mulch.
Yeah.
So kind of like the concept of hugelkultur, but it's not hugelkultur, because hugelkultur is you actually bury the entire log. You're
Yep.
not burying woody mulch, right?
Mhm.
And I found that it didn't work well here. Not sure why, but a lot of my plants in that garden bed, the first summer,
Yeah.
they struggled. And as far as I could tell, it was because the nitrogen was being sucked out of the soil,
Mhm.
because of the woody mulch was breaking down. So I did my second one. This last, again, I don't know why. I don't know where the balloons are coming from.
Yeah, it's the peace sign. For some
There you
reason.
go. I I put only the good soil in for the entire 8 inches this last time.
Yeah.
In the second garden bed that I built, again, a $30 garden bed, and the plants are doing a lot better. So, really it comes down to how healthy is your soil, and
Right.
don't skimp on your soil. People are always looking for the cheapest soil. Well, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
So, that's one of my lifelong lessons. I've taught classes on how to build healthy soil. And that's something I talk about every single time I have an opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in that sense, and a lot of people are going to be doing that sort of thing anyways. I mean, would you be adding any sort of things to it, like mycorrhiza type supplements and things like that to
Yeah.
the soil, and just try to boost up whatever? But I mean, like you said, you're buying stuff that's probably already got really good levels of all of that stuff.
Yes. And
Okay.
when I set up the garden bed, I added azomite, Azomite, azomite. It's a
Yes.
micronutrient vitamin pill for your plants. I added mycorrhiza to the garden bed. I added worm castings to the worm bed, or the garden bed. I added fertilizer. So I did all of that
Yeah.
because and it's all organic, so it's not hard on the soil.
Yeah.
So
And then again too, also for those who are newer to gardening and all that, you add these sort of things, and like you said, that first year, I mean, it's still expectations, but what you're doing really is starting to build that soil. And if you just keep those sort of things going and don't get too dissuaded by some of the results, and you just keep on going and building that soil year in and year out, then you're going to be heading towards some great gardens and all of that.
big time.
Yeah. Let's see. I was going to say here, Connie said, my first year was the best year. Since then, our summers have been 110 with no rain. Oh,
Yeah. Where are
yeah.
you, Connie?
Good
So
question.
one of the things that I discovered years ago, and we give a class on this, it's called drip tape.
Drip tape.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you're Connie, if you're someplace where it's 110 degrees, you need to be watering your garden. Well, when I was in Phoenix, I watered my garden every morning for about 20 minutes using drip tape. Drip
Yeah.
tape's this magical thing that you lay it, it's like tape, and you lay it down, and it's got every 6 or 8 inches, it's got laser cut holes in it. And it does a really, really, really good job of getting things watered. So if
Yeah.
you're Connie, if you're someplace where it's 110 with no rain, you're going to need to be watering your garden every day.
Watering it every day, and then also maybe providing some shade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of planting shade.
Planting shade. Yes.
You went,
Trees and things.
yep, get your trees planted. You can pay for shade, putting up shade structures, but those are short-lived and expensive. Spend the same money and plant some trees.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. All right. So let's talk about some of the things that are in your garden there too, that you're growing here in your second year. What are some of
Okay.
the things that you tried this year? We've talked about tomatoes, those kind of came up, volunteers and all of
Yep.
that. What are some of those things that you actually purposely went out there and planted?
And we're growing mostly from seeds. Heidi
Yep.
did some seed plugs.
Okay.
So a lot of brassicas. We eat a lot of broccoli and broccolini. So we've grown a lot of kales and broccolis, brassicas, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We have one entire 4x8 foot garden bed in carrots right now.
Okay. Yeah.
I grew potatoes for the first time. I actually I was fairly successful with potatoes, and
potatoes are fun.
Yeah, I could never grow those in Phoenix. Another thing I couldn't ever grow in Phoenix was watermelons, and I had some fairly good success with watermelons this year.
Yeah.
So
that's great. Those are actually some of my I had this space kind of off in my alleyway side space, and it was just full of a bunch of stuff. I had some squash in there. We had all sorts of different plants. And then I also had some corn. So some things were just growing on there. And one of the things too, is and I've talked about this throughout the season too, is I've kind of been a little hands off with a lot of stuff. I put it out there. I let it go. Wasn't thinking about it. So I'm clearing out, and I'm taking things out, the corn stalks after they're all done and all of that. And I pull up something, and it pulls up the dirt, and I notice there's a little potato in there. I'm like, like a potato? What's going on here? And then I'm remembered, okay, I grew potatoes the year before. I know I did that. So what I must have did was left a couple of little ones behind.
Yep.
Kind of got left behind there.
Exactly.
But, we talk about volunteers. I had volunteer potatoes this year that I had no clue about. And like I said, when I see that one, I dig in there, and I've got, Greg, I'm not even kidding you, massive. I mean, little potatoes must have got left behind or whatever, but I had these massive yellow potatoes and a couple of big, huge red potatoes too. And they were huge. I was like, for volunteers, and they just, I've had some I've grown in different containers and things, and you get this, there's certain sizes, but these ones were massive. So it kind of goes again to that idea of what you're talking about, how volunteers are really just growing in the best. And, they know when they're growing, they know they're in this space, they're used to, and obviously, they've been there and hanging out in that soil for a whole year now. They're learning the seasons, the temperature changes, all that sort of stuff, and again, too, I don't know. I thought that was one of the coolest things that I've actually grown or seen in my garden for the last few years. There's a lot of things that amaze me, and I each and every year, but this was one of those ones where it was like, wow, I cannot believe that I just got these just big old, I mean at least a good 3-4 pounds of these big potatoes, just all volunteered, had no clue that they were not just volunteers, but I had no clue they were even there.
This goes to what I've said for years, and that's the only place that lack lives. This, this notion of lack is between our ears. Because when I look at our gardens, when I look at the productivity of seeds and fruit that come off of fruit trees, it's mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely mind blowing.
Constantly, and I think it's just one of the things I think it's almost in human nature in a sense that when we see natural life, it's just something that just really kind of connects with our souls in a way.
Yeah.
And I think it's human nature. I think it's in everybody. And I tell people who say like, oh, I have a brown thumb or a black, you know what I mean, not a green thumb. I'm like, well, you just haven't found your inner green thumb yet. You know what I mean? It's inside there. Because I know when you look at things that are alive, or you're out in nature and you're seeing green and trees and all this sort of stuff, that you're getting something from that, and so it's in there, it's internal. All you got to do is just kind of pull it out and again, go through those first gardens, go through years and years. And I know you can also attest to this, having all the years of your experience too, is that we're constantly learning things, and we're constantly having failures as well.
Exactly.
And that's a part of it all. I've killed more plants than I've ever grown successfully.
There you go. There's what I tell people: I've killed more plants than you have, I promise, and not on purpose. So I do have a quick story I want to share real quick. And
Absolutely.
so of the 160 plants that we planted, 100 of them are elderberries. And I have a podcast. It's called the Urban Farm Podcast. And I'm interviewing Samara Price on the podcast last December. And she is a elderberry product purveyor here in Asheville. So she buys elderberries and makes them into drinks and whatever, the products she makes them into.
Yeah.
And during our interview, I said, where are you getting them from? And she said, well, I get a few here and a few there, and most of them come from Europe.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, hold on, what? Yeah. What did you just say? Whoa. So I said in that moment, I can grow elderberries.
Yeah.
Not having a clue as to how to grow elderberries. So I jumped in. Michael Kilpatrick did an elderberry summit this past year. I bought 50 elderberry sticks, literally just a stick that's like 8 inches long with like 5 or 6 nodes on it. And then another 50 of a different variety. And they told me to stick them in the ground. So I stuck them in 4x4x9 pots with some rooting hormone and azomite and mycorrhiza, and the way I plant. And before long, I had 98 elderberry plants. 98 of them budded out. It's like, whoa,
wow, nice.
Hold on. So I am now an elderberry farmer. It turns out there is a huge need for elderberries in our country.
In the country as a whole.
In the country as a whole, yeah.
Yes.
We are significantly underserved. So really, that's my next adventure, is growing elderberries. And, my elderberry sticks that were 8 inches tall are now 3 to 4 feet tall out in the orchard.
And you just planted them this last year?
I planted them this summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they went from 8-inch sticks in January to 3 to 4 feet tall in October.
How big will they get, as full size?
Well, that's a good question. I've seen them grown as trees before, but I'm going to keep them bushes, probably 2 to 3 feet wide and no taller than about 9 feet tall. Okay. So it'll be like a berry hedge.
All right. And do they fruit in their first? They probably haven't fruited in their first year.
I got
is it something you expect next year, or is it something you have to wait a couple of years?
Yeah. So here's the thing about that. We in Phoenix, we still run a fruit tree education program. I've been doing it this is my 24th year, and people can buy fruit trees from us. And the program has successfully delivered over 70,000 fruit trees in the Phoenix area over the past 24 years. And what I tell people is, first year is all about the roots. Second year is all about the shoots. And the third year is all about the fruits. So, this is my first year with them. So we've been developing roots. Next year will be branches and structure and that kind of stuff. And I'll probably let some of them go to seed or
Go to get some fruits. Yeah.
thank you, make fruit.
Yeah.
But most of them, I'll wait till the third year. And I am working on organic certification here. I'll be getting that done. So
that's awesome. Well, that's great. That all of that has come from a discussion and an idea,
right?
And then, finding a place where you fit in and all of that. And as well, a place where there's actual need. I mean, I think that's just really great. I mean, hopefully, you'll be able to produce enough that you won't have to look to Europe anymore, and you've saved all of that, environmental, travel of all of that, the impact. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So she's already told me she'll take 500 pounds a year. I've been told that I should be getting 10 to 15 pounds of berries per bush.
Oh, okay.
Every year. So in 2 years, 2 years from now, I should be getting 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. And I've been working with the cooperative extension agent for my area, the small farm cooperative extension agent from the Buncombe County Co-op. And basically she's told me, Greg, if you have organic elderberries, I have a long list of people that want them.
Yeah.
So here's one tip for those of you that are interested in growing food to sell. I got an email from a guy maybe 3-4 months ago, and he said, Greg, I've got dozens of pounds of sprouts that I've raised. Can you help me market them? He's got it backwards. You need to find a place to market them and then go grow it. So that whatever you have that you're growing, whether it's edible or plants that you're going to sell, find a place to sell them before you actually get started. And the way I started my first real serious farm in Phoenix in 1999 is I made friends with chefs at some of the local restaurants. And I said to them, what do you want me to grow?
Right. That's a good way. Yeah. And that's definitely something I think I need to work on too, because I also, and something I talk about a lot too on our channel, is I also have some other spaces I've been working on with a friend of mine. He has this really big, cool corner front yard lot that just kind of wraps around a corner. And he was like, oh, let's rip the yard up. Let's start a little farm, and
nice.
He was all into the whole thing. So we really tore out 20 by 40 foot, 20 by 40 foot spaces on each corner, one corner and this corner. And the last 2 years, like the first year we just started, we're like, okay, the idea was that we were going to develop a product. We were going to have a product. He's from the East Coast, and over there up in Massachusetts, they really like this pepper relish.
Oh, yes.
Made with like cherry peppers. So it's got a little bit of heat. It's this pepper relish. And so he's like, I can't ever find it here on the West Coast. So I was like, you know what? Well, let's make a West Coast version of it.
Nice.
Let's do that, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? We got the whole thing going, and this was a test of learning things. And again, too, as you're saying, if you had an idea of where you're selling or who you're doing it to, it'd probably have been our best bet. But by the time it got to it, we had all these plants, all this stuff, but then it all wound down to like, okay, now production. And that's where things kind of got a little over our heads.
Yeah.
So the next year I was like, okay, you know what? Let's par down the whole idea. I don't think we're going to be able to do that because we don't have between the two of us to be able to put that together. So then the next idea was, well, let's actually just grow a variety of stuff. Let's see how we can do growing all sorts of different things, and just try that out. And and this year was actually really good. We grew, tons of different stuff, onions. I grew some of the biggest, best onions I've ever grown.
Nice.
Potatoes, melons, squash, corn, garlic and spinach and greens and all that sort of stuff that we're working on now. But again, I think that's such a great idea and a great point about doing something on that level is to find a place to actually,
Yep.
sell to and ask them what do they want instead of just growing all this sort of stuff like we are. And maybe that's where we're aiming towards this next year. It's some really good advice. Maybe I'll go start meeting up with some local restaurants and chefs and see about,
Absolutely.
say, hey, we got this space. What would you like us to grow? And go from there. It's probably a really good idea.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I did when I went back to college late in life, actually, the first time I went to Arizona State University in 1981, I got a 0.5 grade average. That was 2 D's and an F. Absolutely hated being there. I stopped going to college then. My dad said, "Oh, Greg, I got it. You don't want to be in college." No, because I had my own business back then.
Right.
And, I was doing great. And so fast forward 20 years, I'm farming my front yard as I'm going back to college at Arizona State University. And by the way, I graduated with a bachelor's and master's and honors, and I was ready to go back then, right?
Yeah.
But for my undergraduate, which was 99 to 04, I was farming my front and backyard.
Okay.
And what I would do every Wednesday morning is I'd get up super early and I'd harvest whatever there was to eat in the yard, and I would take it to a local farmer's market.
Yeah.
And I'd sell out at the farmer's market, whatever I sold. And then whatever I had left, I took it to my friend Susan at the Calico Cow restaurant. She just took all the rest of it off my hands, used it in her restaurant, and fed me lunch.
Oh, perfect. Nice trade.
Right.
Trade.
So, that's another way to do it. And, I know in Phoenix, we have a community table at the farmer's market. So if you don't want to have your own booth at the farmer's market, you can just take it to the community table. So a lot of farmers markets have community tables. So, if you have a surplus of stuff you're growing in your garden, harvest it and find a place for it to go. If nothing else, do what we did with 5 to 8 pounds of tomatoes, every other day. We put a sign on a table down on the street and said, "Here, take them." The neighbors flipped out. They loved it. So,
Yep. In fact, that is kind of a funny little story, though, too, is that we had tons. I grew this whole row, and I thought, oh, you know what? We'll grow 5 different squash plants, and not different, though. A couple of them were the same, spaghetti squash. So we had a ton of spaghetti squash, right?
Yep.
My friend loves the spaghetti squash, and so he's got a bunch of it, but there was still so much of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I put it in a big old pile right up on the corner. Like I said, it's a corner lot. Put a big old pile right on the corner, and before I could actually put a sign out,
people were taking it
free. A lady come over. She pulls out. She's got a grocery bag. Her husband's waiting in the car. She jumps out of the car, runs over, and this is while I'm in the back. I'm in the back in the deal. She runs over and she's grabbing squash, and I come out the gate, and she looks at me with deer, and headlights type of thing. Oh, is it okay? And I'm like, no, absolutely, take whatever you want.
Yeah. Again, that's the abundance of nature.
Yeah, exactly. And sharing, and that's one of the great community aspects of gardening and growing and all of that is our ability as gardeners to be able to share with people and to bring them into our garden experience, by, having them enjoy our fruits and all of that.
The fruits of our labor, baby.
Fruits of our labor. Exactly. Yeah. Let's see here. I wanted to jump in here. Jay did have a question here I wanted to get to real quick. For Greg, here we are. For many reasons, I am considering using chop and drop for the remains of my vegetable plants. Any concerns or suggestions?
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. Number one. Any concerns that I might have would be in any of the any of the plants have any fungus or mold or virus or something that you don't want to have in your garden. Those I would throw away, but the rest of it, I do chop and drop all the time. And I even in Phoenix, I had my neighbors trained to bring me their bags of leaves. I would get 15 to 20 bags of leaves on my doorstep in the fall every year. So whatever you have in your yard, those leaves that are falling, that's nutrients falling off of the trees. Use it in your garden.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Okay. So then on that aspect, real quick, one of the things that, I see this online all the time is, people are like, just leave the leaves. And I'm like, and right behind you, you got this nice front yard, you got some nice green yard and all of that. And the thing I've found, and I tried this and I experimented with it this last year, is I left all of the leaves. Now, throughout my nice, beautiful part of the year this year, I didn't have that big, beautiful yard. It was just, those leaves covered it. They got, that drowned out all the grasses, all that sort of stuff. And I understand a lot of people a lot of people would be like, well, use your front yard for garden beds and all that sort of stuff. I would love to. I don't own the place, so that, but that was what I found. And then so I'm kind of like on this point of like, these leaves are gold again, like our worm castings. This is gold. But what's your feelings on that sort of stuff? I mean, leaves I feel are kind of really best mulched up, used in our compost, used in our garden beds for mulch, or like I'm doing right now, I'm protecting a lot of my bare soil throughout the winter time with all of my leaves and all that stuff. I'm finding uses for it, but just leaving it, in places it hasn't worked out well for those of us who have yards.
Yeah. Well, my front yard, so you can't see it, but it kind of slopes down toward a road. There's a road beyond those trees that you're seeing.
Yeah.
And there's a ditch right next to the road. So a lot of the leaves, so I mow it in the summertime and spring and fall, I mow it. So the leaves get mulched into the ground. I don't collect the grass, but there's a ditch right next to the road. And right now it's got a foot of leaves in it.
Yeah.
And I just let them be there. So
there you go. Yeah.
Apparently there's a lot of bugs, a lot of beneficial bugs that lay their eggs in the leaves, in the leaf litter. So I'm a big proponent of leaving the leaf litter right where it's at. If you're in a situation like you have, and you have garden beds that you want to grow, you might want to rake them up and put them elsewhere. But that's really up to you. But leaf mulch, mold and leaf mulch compost is some of the best stuff we can get. It's right up there with worm casting. So, have fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's and that's just kind of the aspect of it. I mean, I suppose is like, what is the intention of the space? And if the space is meant to be growing a yard, a grass, that sort of thing, which a lot of people have, and a lot of people rent places and they just don't have the option, and if they're not mowing or raking or doing that sort of stuff, they're going to get a notice from someone saying, hey, what's going on, And so in that sort of aspects, it depends on the space and where you can leave them. I think is probably the best point is where you can leave them, leave them for sure. But my other thing though too is, would it be, I mean, I know there are a lot of beneficials that are in and hide in a lot of certain places and stuff too, but there's also a lot of non-beneficials that love hiding in places as well. And they're looking for little places to hide. So I think maybe there's maybe hopefully a balance in that maybe.
Yeah, there's a balancing act there for sure. And don't tell Heidi. Heidi's my partner, but I see this as an elderberry orchard eventually.
Oh yes.
The front yard.
Expansion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that's great too. And if you do have those options of growing in your front yards, your backyards, all of that, that's definitely encouraged. I would love to do that. I think I might possibly be convincing my new owner that this is possible and this is something we can do. And so maybe that's going to be a change for our space coming up. And that's kind of the great thing about having this new owner too. He's really open to a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping he's open to that as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, and we have something exciting that you and I are doing together besides today.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Every month we do a garden chat live on Zoom.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that and let everybody know how we can. I do have a link to the Urban Farm website down in the description below. And can they catch
gardenchat.org takes you right to the sign up page.
Oh,
And so it'll be the 4th Tuesday of November. So the weekend, the week after Thanksgiving.
sure.
And
Jay will probably put a link for us up in the comments there.
perfect. Thank you. And you and I are going to be talking about worm composting.
Yes. And I mentioned this at the beginning. We kind of touched on it just a little bit there during the conversation. I'm telling you, this is probably one of my more exciting things too right now, is learning. And I built out a couple of worm bins, which I'm going to have a video out here real soon about. And I just got them going, and I'm kind of my first experiment with this is this last year, I've actually been utilizing this area that I would, just basically just put stuff in and just let it compost. It wasn't like a purpose compost. Wasn't turning it, wasn't doing anything. I just let things sit in there. And earlier this last year, I was digging in there and I saw these worms. And I was like, you know what? Instead of like getting my first worm bin per se, let's just start feeding these worms like I would feed worms in a worm bin.
Yeah.
And so I've done that throughout the season. And by the end of the season, I'm telling you, I can go out there right now and I can just pull back the top layer there and you'll just see thousands. I can grab them by handfuls of worms that are just in there, just going at it. And so I've got a worm bin that's specifically using those worms.
Oh,
then I got
nice.
another worm bin that I ordered red wigglers. So we're doing kind of both of those and kind of seeing how they both work and all of that too. But yeah, really exciting. I'm excited about it. And another thing I was going to mention about that too is one of the reasons why I started it now versus maybe like during this next growing season or whatever is because I want to get worm castings for this next season. And it's going to take a few months, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to work these out when they're going to let these worms build some castings throughout the winter months and hopefully have some of that garden gold come springtime.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I love it. You can tell it's got me excited. I'm totally
yeah, exactly.
Another thing too, this is something, and I've read this in this book, and I talk about this book. It's Worms Eat My Garbage.
Yep.
And really great book, and it's a resource, and I'll have it in the video, and everybody can check that out. But one of the things that they mention in there briefly is like, don't go in there and disturb these things all the time. Let them do their business, And it's kind of like when you got a new plant or you've planted a seed or and it's you're always checking, is it there? Is it popping up? Is it ready yet? You just have that urge of wanting to get in there and check these worms out and all of that. And that is something I have to hold back from every day because I'm so excited about my worm bin.
There you go.
I want to get in there. Like, how you guys doing? So how's your worms and worm bins and all of that going?
Oh my, like I said, I have been doing worm composting for decades.
Yeah. So you have a lot of good experience.
I've tried tubs, just the plastic tubs you get at a big box store. I've tried doing them in the ground. I built in Phoenix, a wooden flow-through worm bin. A flow-through worm bin, you put the stuff in on the top and the worms compost and eat the stuff on their way up, and eventually it comes out of the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just built this wooden structure that was 3 feet by 4 feet, and on the bottom of it I got some old oven racks, just the metal racks out of it, and that's what went on the bottom of them.
Okay.
And the way I started that is I put down cardboard, and then I put some cocoa peat and cardboard in it and started feeding it. And a year later, the worm castings were just dropping regularly out of the bottom of the bottom of the worm bin. Yeah, that worked really well. Yeah. So I've tried all kinds of things. And like I said, the Urban Worm Company's flow through worm bin, I think it was $125. It's super inexpensive and works really, really well. I was really happy with that. So
so many different ways of doing that and different bins and all that sort of stuff. And I hope to be able to experiment with most of those as well throughout this next year. But really so fun. So I encourage everybody too, if you're watching right now or listening or on a replay, go down. We'll get also a link to that garden chat and everything down in our description, as well as the Urban Farm link is that we got to there. So come join with us. This is going to be what, the 28th, right?
Yep.
I think it's a Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, you go to gardenchat.org is where you can sign up for it. And I'm just confirming the date. It is the 28th at 4 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, that'll be me. My time, 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Greg's time on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We're coast to coast here, Greg.
Woohoo!
That's right. Now, awesome too. And we'll talk all about vermicomposting. We'll get into some details and different worm bins and all of that sort of stuff. So I really encourage everybody to come check out that garden chat. It's always such a great time hanging out and talking with you and discussing and talking about gardens and all of that.
Well, we could do this forever.
I could talk all day long. That's the one thing about this show, man. It's such a hard time when it comes to this point where it's like, yeah, you know what? We're getting to the point where we're at the end of our conversation. But man, there's so many more things I could ask and talk about and all of that. But you coming on and joining with us again is just an absolute pleasure, and just really, really gonna have to have you back on again.
Right back at you. We'll do it again next summer. We can talk about my elderberry orchard and how well it did.
Yeah, we'll keep having you come back and have us update us on all of that great stuff growing on in your garden.
All right, and thanks, Jay. Jay's been posting regularly in the chat.
Isn't Jay awesome, dude?
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
He is one of the most, and that was a great thing, is like he came on and he was just so supportive and just helping out doing that anyways. And I was like, Jay, I just need to make you a moderator so you can handle this stuff. You're
nice.
You're my chat guy, all that sort of stuff. And so he shows up here every single week and really helps us with all of these awesome links. So like even when we're talking about something, like I think he just put a link for the Worms Eat My Garbage book.
Yeah, exactly.
So any sort of thing, he's just popping in there and helping us get to checking out the things that we're talking about. So yeah, thanks to Jay, thanks to everybody too here for joining in and asking some questions and all of that, and joining in with our conversation here with Greg. And again, really awesome to have you, Greg. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon. And and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks.
Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
IV Organic brand products are innovative, organic, effective, and USA made products to help make this your best growing season. Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author saving the world with the home garden. IV Organic brand products has a product for you, whether you be an organic orchard or a backyard grower that's trying to do things right. IV Organics has a product for you. IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers are unlike most fertilizers on the market in the sense that it has all 6 plant macronutrients. These are nutrients that plants need in abundance. Most people are just focused, and most people have only been trained to focus on the NPK, but IV Organic brand fertilizers deliver all 6 plant macronutrients, which include your nitrogen for your greening and growth, phosphorus for flowers and fruit, and also in the summertime helps with the drought resistance of the plant. Potassium, important for root development, disease resistance, and then the other 3 macronutrients that IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers have include magnesium, which is the heart of the chlorophyll molecule, sulfur, important for the greening and the metabolic processes within the plant, and number 6, and actually about 1/3 of the plant's weight, is calcium.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. right. Yeah. How great was that again to have a great conversation with Greg Peterson? Such an awesome person joining with us again for the second time. It's great to have him back and talk all about his gardens. It's been really awesome. And again, like I said, I could sit here and talk with him all day long, talk all about all sorts of different things when it comes to gardening. But if you want to catch our conversation again too, I'll put a link. I think Jay might even put a link there too in our comments. We'll get one down in the description as well, to the garden chat, which is going to be on November 28th. That's a Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And you can go and check that conversation out. We'll be talking all about vermicomposting and worm farming and all of that, and talk about the benefits, different bins, all that sort of stuff like we were talking about. It'll be a great, fun conversation. It'll be very similar to this, except for I think he does it over Zoom, and you guys can all join in. You can ask questions and be a part of the conversation as well too. So again, I really encourage you to check that out as well too. And again, here I want to ask you all to, if you haven't yet, hit that like button, give us a big thumbs up for Greg Peterson joining with us here on the show today. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share with all your friends. That's a big thing too. Share with all your garden friends. Go let people in your garden groups and all of that know all about our show. I mean, look at this. We're having such great, fun conversations about gardening with some of the great gardeners, that are out there doing things like Greg at the Urban Farm Podcast. We've had back again with us just recently, Gardener Scott joining with us, and all of these wonderful guests that we've had this year. So definitely let people know that we're having some real good garden fun here over on the Urban Gardener channel and the Let's Get Growing show. And you can check us out again too at letsgetgrowing.live. Yes, and the one thing I also want to encourage everybody to is get down in the description there as well. We've got all sorts of great links and everything, but one of them we have is a link to our Facebook gardening group. This is the Let's Get Growing, a gardening group on Facebook. And this is basically our urban gardener gardening community. And this is a great opportunity for all of you who watch the show, the channel, and all of that to be able to come to our group and share with us all of your garden adventures too. Because I get to show all the sort of cool things that I'm growing in my garden and all of my gardening here on the channel. So you all get to see all of that. What I really like to be able to see is what you all have growing on in your garden. So that garden group is a great opportunity for you all to be able to share your garden pictures, videos, questions too. If you have any questions about your gardens, or if you know a little bit about gardening too, I'm sure there's some people that could use some help as well every now and then. So you can jump in and help people with their gardens and just really help us grow the urban gardener community. So again, thank you all so much for those of you who have joined with us in our garden community. So I hope to see all the rest of you who haven't yet join with us here real soon. And again, too, I want to give a big shout out to all of those who are watching our replay. Thank you so much for joining with us and watching the replay. And if you can, jump down in that comment section below too and leave us some comments. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if there's any ideas or any sort of thing like that you might have for our show. We're always up for some ideas. Are there some guests, some people that you would like to see us interview out there that we could interview on the show? We'd love to find out and be able to do some interviews with some people that you might like to see right here on the Let's Get Growing show. So definitely get down there and check that out as well. I really want to thank again to everybody here. I think we've seen a couple of new people joining in with us. Oh, of course, we got Nancy there as well. Nancy, thank you for joining. Jeanette, thank you for coming out here. She says I was only able to catch a little bit, but it was great. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, any bits you can catch, any bit you could join with us is really awesome. So I really appreciate you coming in and joining with us here on our on our channel. And real quick here, though, too, speaking of Nancy, we did mention at the very top of the show, and I'll mention one more time here, Nancy, our good friend and longtime viewer of the channel, her daughter, Sarah, just started Sarah's Seed Shop. And anybody who knows and is familiar with the old channel Praxis 55712, she's basically kind of taken over the little shop of seeds and created it all into her own thing. So go check out Sarah's Seed Shop at www.sarahseedshop.com. And she's got some really awesome selections of seeds at only 75 cents a piece. And that's one of the things I'm really glad is that she's carrying that on from what Ray was doing in providing people with really inexpensive seeds, lots of seeds, really inexpensive. So definitely go and check out that seed shop. There is a link also down below in the description there too. I'd love to see all of our urban gardener community and all of you who watch the Let's Get Growing show go down and show some support to a great young entrepreneur and a really awesome small business. And definitely get yourself some seeds there for sure. And let's talk about, next week. Be sure to come and join with us next week. This next Saturday, we're going to have our good friend Mark Brochet Colbert joining with us here on the show. He was doing our In the Garden segment during the beginning of our show early on in the season. He had to take a break for a while, but he's going to come and join with us this next week in order to talk about his new Design Your Eden garden deck. This is a card deck, and it's got all these really great cards in it. It's called Design Your Eden, and they're kind of like little cards, playing cards in a sense, but they've got what it does is kind of gives you a chance, an opportunity to take a look at different elements and different things in order to kind of give if you're just looking at a blank slate, it's sometimes hard to kind of think of like, well, what do I want to do here? What do I want to do with this space when it comes to this? You've got maybe a couple of different ideas, and so you can get with these cards and utilizing them a chance to play around and look at different things in your garden spaces a little bit differently and help you think of maybe some new ways to design your spaces. So it's the Design Your Eden garden deck there, and we'll be talking all about this next week when our friend Mark Roche Colbert joins with us on the show. So I hope that all of you come and join with us then too. And again, give a big thumbs up for Greg, and we'll see all of you guys this next week.